guys. Just want to make sure this is working. So, let's quickly talk about this topic. Uh, shift how you feel. How do you shift it? Number one, you have to be aware of what you're feeling right now. And that's a big one. Because a lot of times we chose not to feel what we don't like to feel. And so when we become more aware of what we do, what we eat, what we think, and how we feel, the more you're in tune with what is truly going on at this very moment, then the better you will become. At some point, you realize you want to shift the feeling, depending on what you're feeling, obviously. Right? So if you're not aware of what you're feeling, that there's no point for you to talk about shift your feeling because you don't even know what's going on within you, right? So why I want to talk about this today is just because what I'm going through today, it was just kind of like a great example. As I shared with all of you before, that I have been practicing meditation. So with that being said, I'm not the master of it. I don't think anybody can really truly call themselves a master because each time when you meditate, highly possibly you are experiencing something slightly different or drastically different. So what meditation is able to enhance, like help us to be able to improve, is the self-awareness, right? When you tune to your higher self, everything around you becomes so transparent, so to speak. So what happened today, like I just want to share my personal experience today. So it is very human thing, obviously. We talk about filing text and all that, and so I have to go through multiple hoops and loops, so to speak. And what happened was there are just multiple hiccups for some reason, just happened to be dealing with this particular situation, right? As most of us know that, tax seasons are over unless you file extension, which I wasn't late for it, thank God, but there was a hiccup. Actually, there are multiple times of hiccups. This is my third time trying to send my original tax return to the state of Maine. And so to find out, because I was very proactively like trying to keep track of what I do and what I send out and when I did this, and then I make a note. I'm very, very detail oriented when it comes to this. So I really finally I had to call. I said that look, it's already May. Everything should be done by now because they got the paperwork back in March. So anyhow, so what happened was finally I was able to talk to somebody at the department, so they were able to look at my account, and finally they were like saying like, well, we only got your amended part, we didn't get your original nor your federal. And I'm like, I sent the snail mail with all my paperwork and everything else that are needed. I mean, redundantly, I gave them pretty much everything, the whole copy, because I made multiple copies. I have a habit. Anything that's very important, documentations, I normally will make at least 2 to 3 copies just in case. Just in case, even if my computer is not working, my computer is down, hard drives completely die on me, and even if I backed up with a external hard drive or a thumb drive, I don't care. I always make extra copies, the physical copies. I just do that. I created a habit, especially during the military service. I have learned that I have to make multiple copies of my DD-214 and everything else, my service record, my health records. So I learned to be very careful. I mean, for some people will be like, this is way too much, kind of like an OCD, but I don't think it's an OCD because I've seen people lost everything in the past that you cannot even recover from it. It's just a gigantic pain to do it. But anyway, so my point was, because I've been doing a lot of meditation, right? I have been really intentionally Doing the meditation slash healing visualization, I blend it all into that space depending on what I was called to do. So because of this ongoing persistent practice, that I noticed things are shifting already. Compared to the beginning of the year, obviously things already shift quite a bit. And I noticed that. I noticed my own energy flow, everything around me, and so on. So I think that because things started to, what happened was I did the paperwork early on in February, right before Valentine's Day, just trying to get everything done in a rush. So that was on me. But at the same time, because the energy is just all like, so if somebody have to scan my energy, possibly during that time, I'm just going through this transition just like everybody else, because the whole entire earth and everybody else are shifting. Energy is just moving. It's quite unsettling the first 6 months of this year. I think by the time we're going into June or towards the end of June, the second half of the year, I really think it's got to be calming down. All right. So as far as for me, for my case, uh, just to realize, I mean, things haven't been handled, things haven't been resolved. I tend to have it in my head. So even when I do meditation, just like everybody else, sometimes something that's so important that you just want to make sure you remember, even though you put it on your calendar on your phone, you set a reminder to remind you that part of the situation you still want to handle it in a timely manner. So most of us would tend to kind of think about that, right? There's something important is always on your mind, that this has to be done, this has to be done. So anyhow, so I noticed something has been changed when it comes to like today, this particular situation I'm talking about, filing tax, sending out the paperwork. But here's what I noticed, right? So it's not really a but. I don't know why I said but. The lady who talked to me, she's actually extremely nice. And what happened was sending the paperwork via email works out really well. So I'm thankful for that. And in during the time I have to head back home to pick up my paperwork, I kind of noticed how I feel, because back in the day, even a few months ago, when something not working right electronically is supposed to be filed for all the states and federal, it says accepted. Eventually I found out, state of Maine actually didn't really get anything electronically, just disappeared in the air. I remember my reaction at that time when I found out the first round of it, and then also when I found out I forgot about one particular information I haven't entered in the original tax filing. I remember exactly, very clearly, how I felt. Like my emotional response was just so loud that I can feel it in my physical body. Because when you are practicing mindfulness and you are learning to becoming more go with the flow, right? You want to be calmer. You want to be able to handle things, not being reactive, right? So when you are being reactive, a little bit more reactive, not a lot of reactive, you're starting to feel it. You notice that change. You notice the contrast compared to what you've been practicing. The calmness, the just be chill, take it easy, go with the flow. Everything's gotta be all right. You're trying to be in that space, which I have been doing better and better. And I remember how freaked out and how short fused I was when I was realizing, like, oh, I flopped on one thing which I should not have flopped. I was concerned about something else and something else taken care of, and I missed out the other part, right? So I flopped. So I remember I was so like, man, for that one single moment, as soon as I found out what happened, I was so out of alignment. Like for that moment, for that split second, it's just like, just kind of like go back to like how I used to feel the world. Not exactly, obviously, but my point is, a couple months ago versus now, I'm handling the same thing, and it's already in May. Good thing is that I wasn't considered to be late. I think, I hope not. because they really got my paperwork back in March, and I just told them, like, look, I really sent you all the paperwork. And actually, first time it's electronic, but it was lost. Second time I sent actual paperwork early enough, and somehow you guys just got certain part of the paperwork, everything else just disappeared. Somebody burned it, lost it, ate it, I don't know. Now this is the third time. Hopefully the third time will be good, because I use electronic, email to send everything attached with all those files, all the paperwork, have a timestamp, have the date stamp, using my work email, CC to myself, CC to my personal email account. So I'm like, okay, I'm just cover all bases and making sure it's trackable. This is something that I really make an effort to trying to resolve it, because this is really unusual, right? So anyhow, I notice I have not been having that emotional reaction. This is kind of like what I said, that even though the situation is not what I like to see, but because of the situation that I'm handling right now, it helps me to see and gauge the inner work that I've been working on, right? So you have some problems. So in order for you to be able to test whether or not you can be more patient with situations or with yourself, right? You have to have a situation to test it out and see if this really worked, right? So if I think that, oh, I think I'm good, I think I can be chill no matter what happened, right? If you're in a peaceful, quiet, like all serene, type of environment, nothing gets stirred up, then of course you gotta be peaceful. The only time you can test out if you're truly peaceful is when you are in a not so perfect situation, to see if you are still able to remain that peaceful, right? So that's how we know. So I kind of lately really shift the way I'm looking at situations. Sometimes it's not really just about law of attraction. Law of attraction means what? Whatever on the outer world is reflecting on how you feel inside, your energetic body is manifesting what you are going to see into reality, right? So we talk about that, perhaps not necessarily on on the video per se, but I talk about it very often in the past, whether it's Instagram or with my clients or with my friends, So lately, I'm trying to really have to be able to have the discernment. Sometimes it is really not about the law of attraction. Sometimes the purpose of things happening is just for you to be able to see your personal growth. Does that make sense? So for me to look at today's situation, I actually have a different perspective on it. I feel like I can appreciate this experience. This is my third time trying to send it back out, and I'm actually grateful, because things are being handled, things are being accepted. I received a reply from the state, and then my email with all those attached files going to be forwarded to this particular tax examiner. So I got response so quickly, and I say thank you. I reply it quickly, even though I probably don't think she expect me to say thank you, but I'm just kind of like, you know what? This should be good. I've done my part. I've done my best. Let it go. She will be able to help me out. And so my point is, I noticed that the knowing I don't have to be freaked out like how I did back in March, back in actually February, when I realized things are not working right? We got some hiccups to begin with, to start with. And it's kind of nice that I finally able to see myself like, hey, you know what? I wasn't tripping. I'll feel like, oh, okay, I need to take the time, go home, grab the paperwork, come back, do it all again. Make sure I get everything. Make sure I label all file. Make sure I got everything. Check. Okay, good. Hit send. I get flustered for a moment. Like, okay, fine. I'm gonna go home, get something, that I need. I'll come back, I'll handle it. So in my head, all I could hear is just like, I can handle it. So this is kind of funny just to see a small little situation. To me, it's kind of like big because you talk about like text filing, I'm always the type of person that the only time you want to hear from IRS or from your State Department is like you really don't want to hear from them, to be honest. If you hear from them, better be something good, maybe for a reward or maybe an employment or a promotion or something else, but not necessarily really talking about like, hey, you get audited, you're missing some paper where you're owing us money. So that's always how I see like when it comes to like a government. You really want to do the right thing and do it right so that they can leave you alone, right? Um, this time, just to be able to feel that handling it, emotional stir up was just tiny little spike and then just go right back down. And I was able to hear myself just handle it. It's totally doable. You can handle it. It's not how you want it to turn out to be, and you have to do extra work and do multiple times of work to get it done, but you're handling it. And so I keep telling myself, like, yeah, I can handle it. Just handle it. It'll be all right. Just handle it. You're doing the right thing. Just handle it. So I think that's the biggest take from this particular experience today. And also, I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy is because I'm able to notice that change in me. Yeah, I try to feel, even talk about right now, I'm trying to feel the anxiety or the panicky or the stress, I'm trying to feel it. All I can feel is that I'm determined, very focused, laser beam focused, just want to get it done, but not necessarily impatient. I just want to get everything done right this time, for the one last time, handle it. So my point is, in order to shift our feel, like our emotions, how we feel. Remember when I first start talking about this at the beginning of this video, you have to identify and know what you're feeling. Because I have a lot of crappy feelings back in the days because I'm one of those like most angry people that you run into. And I know how bad I could get in the past. And I knew that if I get very anxious, I know how my body responds. It's not just like feeling right here. I can feel it in different part of my body. Tense up on the muscles, neck, and sometimes it gets so bad that my migraine would get triggered, and so I know how I would respond because I have to deal with this for so many years, Talk about decades of problems, right? So then doing all this inner work, in the last 10, 15, 17, 18 years, I lost track of it. But I'm just doing it ongoing, right? Starting to notice the little baby steps of work and creating some long-lasting results. Even though it takes so long, it takes pretty long time to see a better long-lasting result. But it's happening. Because I'm not saying you have to take a long time. It's just because my resistance to make changes are also very, very huge. And I'm very much aware of that. So when we're able to remove the resistance to make any positive changes, that will be the number one thing to do if you are able to listen to this now. It is not just about like, hey, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling depressed, I just want to feel good. I just want to be happy. Why so freaking difficult to be happy? Why should just keep happening? Why my life is just so chaotic? Why all the stuff is just happening all at once in my life? Why? Why now? Why me? Besides, we want to clear out this clutters, right, of emotions. We also have to realize that there is a part of us didn't really want to create that change. I know it sounds really messed up, but It happened to a lot of people. Even though we want to be better, but then there's a resistance holding us back, that even though we know we want to be better, but we just don't want to do the work to make a change. Somehow, subconsciously, we tend to create that block, the resistance of making changes. So fundamentally, so important is to remove the block of making changes, the desire to make changes, that block, something's holding us back to make changes, that something needs to be removed. And that takes a lot of awareness and looking deeper and learning more about yourself. And once you're able to do it, then you will start to become more intentional. I think you will start to hear me saying that word intentional. Why? Because if you are not intentional, everything that you do will just kind of like, whoa. See, even when I talk about like practice mindfulness, right? How I want to feel, like at this very moment, I want to feel really calm, relaxed. Let me tell you, I cannot be calm and relaxed all the time. It ain't gonna happen, at least at this point in my life. But I'm doing better. So knowing that that will be it, like from time to time, I will have this divot of the lower tide of my emotions, and then it will bounce back to my baseline. My baseline is actually pretty good, but sometimes it's just a wave. Emotions kind of like a tidal wave. It is okay. You have some divot time and coming back, and then you just go. You just go with it. The point is, no need to reject or deny your feelings. It is so important. We have to remember, we have to embrace and accept our emotions, good and bad according to your definition. We have to be able to allow ourselves to feel. We have to acknowledge that there are people who are suffering as much as I did my share of suffering long as time ago for so much crap. Even yesterday, I was listening to this one YouTube lady. She's doing a reading. Talk about a teenager, not inner child, inner teenager. And man, my emotions just pour out because she was right on point talking about the particular pile of cards I picked, and that reading would just really hit me hard. And I was my tears just pouring down. I wasn't really crying or sobbing, and just tears coming up because, yeah, part of me, that was the part of me I was releasing too. So I was very thankful for that reading because I did not even think about that part of my time being a teenager during those years, what I have gone through emotionally and mentally. How I have to tell myself, like, hey, you don't have anybody to rely on, to lean on. You have to be tough. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to be a tough cookie. You cannot show your weakness to other people because you have to depend on yourself for safety, for everything else, for survival, right? I'm sure some of you can relate to that. And you became that person. That became your persona, so to speak, right? You want to project that image to the outside world so the people would be like, oh, okay, so you know what you're doing, huh? You're a tough cookie, huh? You don't just give in your emotions easily, huh? That's what we want to project because we want to protect ourselves. That's a self-preservation mode. That's a very protective mode that we want to protect ourselves and not to be vulnerable. I taught myself not to be vulnerable since I was little because of the circumstances I have to go through. Because of like all the abuses and crazy stuff happening, as I was growing up since I was very, very young. And without realizing that on one side of it, it's a good thing because it seems like making me a stronger person, right? I can handle shit. I just put up that guard. I can handle it. And I didn't realize that has been going on with me even up to this point now. I'm not saying I'm not loving. I'm not saying I'm not opening up myself, but there is still part of me what's connected to that part of me long time ago as a teenager, and even as a younger person, I set the tone for what I need to be projected to the outer world. And I would not allow myself to be that vulnerable to anyone, not even to myself. That's a big deal because I would not let myself to be that way. So it's not like other people telling me not to be that way. I was the one who set the tone, like I will not let myself to be that way. I'm sure some of you probably have done that to yourself and trying to make sure you're tough enough so that other people won't take advantage of you, so that people will not just step all over you, right? So I just hit it really hard. And so what I noticed too, I became more allowing my emotional response. So in that case, yesterday I have tears because I was intentionally to tell myself, to tell my higher self, to tell the divine, to tell God, okay, I got it. I got your message. You're telling me just to let it go. I don't have to be that way anymore. I can soften up. I can be vulnerable. I don't have to constantly looking out for myself. It is okay now. That phase has been done, has been over. You don't have to be guarded up all the time like how you used to. You can change up a little bit now. So I intentionally really give myself the permission to release it. And release it and let the creator, let the divine to transform the energy into a higher vibrational frequency, more loving, healing energy, right? And that part, it's also part of what I talk about, shift how you feel. As we're releasing some of the things, some of the emotions, emotional baggages, we will be able to have more room. We make room. We make room for that, to create that space, to hold that space for something greater, hold the space for something more, for something that will be more nurturing, right? For the higher purpose and for the highest good. Even when it comes to emotions, I can be sad. I can still be upset if something happens. Somebody just drive a car and run into my office and ruin everything. Am I gonna be smiling at that person? Like, it's okay. I'm not gonna do that. That would be very inhuman. That's not normal. I probably be like, what the. So I'm gonna be WTF. I'm gonna be shocked. I'm gonna have exactly what a normal human being will feel. But the point is, I can feel all those emotions without being bogged down and stay in that space and feel exactly the same emotions for the next fucking 10 years. I can be intentionally to allow myself to go through that process quicker. In other words, so if I have to do a grieving process, if you learn about the grieving cycle, you have to go through those phases in order for you to be completely heal and let go. You cannot just skip some of the phases and then thinking like, oh, I'm well now. And in fact, I never grieved the whole entire thing. That's my point. We can always allow ourselves, and actually, I should say this, we must allow our emotions to go through those processes, to go through those phases, to feel all we are allowed to feel. But go through it, not going through and absorb it's like a sponge, and then eventually you got a sponge of all those crap and you hold on to that sponge with you and sleep with it. That will become unhealthy. I think that's what's going on with a lot of us. We go through all those emotions to the point we absorb and just holding all those emotions and sleep with it for decades, to the point where we feel numb because there's no room for anything anymore. There's just too much, and we shut down. We don't want to feel, right? So now, instead of doing that, all you have to do is just a whole chunk of stuff that you've been holding on to, just drop it. Now you make room. And so, making emotional shift how you feel. It's coming from that knowing when you're holding on to something, And when you are making a decision, it's a big decision too, to release and let go and heal and forgive. Not only forgive the people who hurt you, not only to forgive what you have done to other people, perhaps not so great, but also to forgive for the fact that you allow yourself to stay in that not so happy space for such a long period of time. Then you can truly move on to allow yourself to have the freedom to make that call. I want to feel better. I want to be emotionally free. Meaning what? Emotionally free is not saying that you're not going to cry, you're not going to feel sad. No, emotionally free means that you are free to allow yourself to feel whatever you want to feel according to the circumstances you're going through. If you watch a comedy, laugh your ass off. Sometimes when I can laugh so hard, I have happy tears. I love that. But I cannot do it all the time, obviously. But you allow that to happen and then release it, but don't hold it in. That's it. Do not hold it in. Do not hold it in as if this is like the super lot of freaking like with the like $500 million jackpot. No, you don't gain anything from holding on to that. You experience it, release it. As I always said, the same thing, the same analogy. If you breathe in, you better breathe out, or you will not be living. You will not be doing what you're doing. You will be long gone. Meaning, left the body, you checked out and go back to non-physical. So it is important to remember when you are able to feel emotions, give yourself the emotional freedom to feel. Be my guest. You are a human being. You are supposed to feel emotions. But mind you, don't hold it in as you're feeling. Don't collect them like you are collecting freaking dollar bills and coins and watches and shoes. And don't be a hoarder. Do not be an emotional hoarder. Right? So you want to feel it, but you don't want to hoard it. Release it. Then you can bounce back to your baseline. The baseline, by the way, is based upon how much of the inner work that you do. Because the more inner work that you do, you can be able to see yourself, your baseline will become higher on a higher frequency. So that way, there is something more, let's just say, tragic, something bad, really bad happen. It will still hit you or hit you down, but then you are going to bounce back to here at your baseline a lot faster. That is the emotional freedom, what we're talking about, what I'm talking about here. So you can totally shift. It's a practice. We were not taught how to do this. It takes a lot of awareness, mindfulness practice. It takes a lot of knowing. Nobody should be knowing yourself better than you do. If you don't understand yourself, or if you do understand yourself and you chose to turn the other way, not to look at yourself and really face your own truth, goods and the bads, the strength and the weaknesses, if you chose to look the other way and pretend nothing happened and pretend that you don't want to deal with yourself, then nobody can really help you. So this is also part of the spirituality, because we cannot be separate from our spirit. Because if I'm separate from my spirit, I'll be dead. Meaning my spirit will shed this body, I'll be dead. So always remember that we cannot separate from our spirit. We can ignore the spirit, what the spirit is trying to talk to us, our higher self, trying to talk to us and trying to show us what we need to do. We can ignore them and brush them off and tell them to shut up, flip the finger to yourself. But we cannot separate ourselves from the spirit, like meaning the body and the spirit. In fact, I was listening to the other lady, she was talking about like we're all about integration. A lot of teachers now starting to talk about integration. We're integrating that, the part, the power, the imagination, the divine force, everything provided to us, the inner knowing, inner wisdom, creativity, compassion, and love, all this wonderful thing from the spirit and the non-physical can completely integrate it into this physical vessel, even though, yes, we're in this 3D transitioning into 4D and even 5D. We have to be able to fully embrace and integrate with this in order for us to be able to go to 4D and 5D and so on. We have to embrace it. If we cannot embrace it, then we just have to keep trying until we're able to do it. You know, I remember, who said this before? I forgot. Going to 4D and 5D is not about getting rid of this 3D and just walk away from it because this is too much. It's actually the opposite. You have to be really loving this right now, finding your true joy, finding appreciation for this experience before you can move forward to 4D and 5D. Not the other way around. I'm trying to go to 4D and 5D because this is crappy. Not that. It's actually the opposite. You have to be truly compassionate, loving this whole entire experience, good and the bad, sadness and joy. All, everything. It's like sometimes you want to have sweet sauce, sweet and sour, or just sour. Sometimes you may want to have some spices. Life is all about all those different sauces you want to dip. I love my dumplings. I want to dip in different type of sauce sometimes just to taste it out. Sometimes we want to sample it. We are sampling different sources in life. That's what we want to experience. By doing so, we still are able to fully integrate and harness the true essence of us, the spirit in us, to be able to utilize what we are given, and through this sampling we can still shine the light and be there and to help one another to create something that is supposed to be amazing and raise the vibration for all. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys later and talk about another topic, okay? Whatever comes to me. But I hope that when you are able to take a little bit of time to learn more about yourself and give yourself a chance, understand yourself that yes, you may be struggling, but doesn't have to be that way. When you are willingly to look at what is truly holding you back and dump that whole chunk of stuff out, sometimes it has to be done by layering, peeling off an onion, if that's the case. Everybody's different, and I've done different versions of it. So make the space and hold the space. You have to create the space by dumping some of the crappy stuff out of your system so that you can have the space to heal. I love you guys. Talk to you next time. Have a good day. Bye.